Welcome back to The Point. Would you expect Kanye West to rap about for-profit prisons? Let's take a look.
I moved my family out the country so you can't see where I stay. So go and grab the reporter so I can smash his recorder. They try to confuse it with some BS like the New World Order. Meanwhile, the DEA teamed up with the CCA. They try and lock people up. They try and make new slaves. See, that's that probably on prison. Get your piece today. They probably all in the Hamptons bragging about what they made. Your Hampton house, I take your Hampton spouse. Came on a Hampton blouse and in a Hampton mouth. Y'all about to turn it up. I'm about to tear it down. I'm about to air it out. Now what the hell they gonna say now?
All right, say what you want to say about Kanye West. I know he's done some questionable things in the past, but that was an awesome song. And I'm not saying it because it might have sounded good, but I'm saying it because of the lyrics that were in the song, and he brings attention to something that hasn't really been discussed too much by rappers. He talks about private prisons. And of course, rappers do talk about injustices and how minorities are targeted for specific crimes, but he specifically talks about the CCA, which is the Corrections Corporation of America. It's the largest for-profit prison company in the United States. And just to give you a sense of what he said in the lyrics, he said, "So go and grab the reporters so I can smash their records. See, they'll confuse us with some bullshit like the New World Order." Meanwhile, the DEA teamed up with the CCA. They trying to lock niggas up. They trying to make new slaves. See, that's the private-owned prison. Get your piece today. So those lyrics are very blunt, and I do know that some people are aware of what's happening for the for-profit prison industry. Back in the 1980s, to give you guys very quick history on it, we were locking up so many nonviolent drug offenders that our public prisons were overcrowded. Municipalities, counties, states, they didn't know what to do. So finally, they allowed these corporations to take over and lock away some of these nonviolent offenders. And you know what? There's a lot of money to be made, and they're spending a lot of money lobbying to make sure legislators pass tough on crime legislation. So Desi, first question goes to you. What do you think about Kanye getting political in his rap music?
Oh, I think it's brilliant. I think it's great. This is something that I believe most Americans are not aware of. In fact, I'd say 98% of Americans are not aware of it. You guys at Young Turks do a great job of making this connection between the private prison corporation and the egregious number of people that we have in prison in the United States, which I believe is more than any other country combined, or some sort of ridiculous statistic like that?
Yes, let me give you some numbers. So there are 1.6 million people in state and federal prisons in the United States as of December of 2010. However, if you look at private facilities, that number is 128,195. And by the way, when you hear the word private, you think, oh, they fund themselves. No, they're not really private because they're using taxpayer money to run their facilities. So it's a really big problem. Dave, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, do you feel that this is just one of those issues where it'll continue to get worse and no justice will be served?
Well, first off, it's great to see Kanye using his art to say something. That's the most important thing that an artist can do, whether you're a singer, a rapper, a comedian, or a sculptor. So that's great. I think in terms of the prisons, the easiest thing we could do is stop locking people up for simple drug offenses, and especially marijuana.
Yeah.
Even where I live, where marijuana is sort of legal here in California, I'm still a little confused because I guess it changes every day. But 2 blocks away from my apartment, they just had a federal raid on the legal dispensary. And this is happening constantly. I mean, you turn the news on here all the time and this is happening. So all that kind of stuff would just be a simple way to start. Let's start with nonviolent crimes, people that are often using this stuff for health benefits. And even if it's not for health benefits and it's just for recreational use, that's not so bad either. So I think that would be just like an easy way to start the conversation, at least.
Absolutely. I mean, we have 2 states in the U.S. That voted to legalize marijuana, not just for medicinal use, but also recreational use. And of course, those laws do not mesh well with our federal laws. But the question is what the Obama administration will do with those 2 states going forward. Peter, I want to bring you into this conversation. Do you think that it's effective for a rapper to raise awareness about these issues, or do you think that most people are just going to see this and say, whatever, it's Kanye West, he got Kim Kardashian pregnant, no one cares what he has to say?
Right. No, I think it's hugely effective to have artists raising these issues. I mean, Kanye reaches an audience that doesn't read the New York Times, doesn't watch Young Turks, and to have him raise those issues, is great. And I mean, we've all seen, this week with Angelina Jolie and the way that she came out and talked about her own personal decisions, how celebrities, artists can in fact affect the way that society thinks about these issues. And it is a huge issue. I mean, Corrections Corporation of America is, recently basically sent letters around to almost every state in the country, offering to buy up prisons on the condition that the prisons guarantee that they would retain 90% occupancy for the next 20 years. And to have that kind of financial incentive to throw people in jail and to have punitive drug laws, there's a real conflict with our public interest.
And there is specific legislation that you can tie back to the private prison industry. SB 1070 in Arizona is a perfect example of that. And you're seeing more and more immigrants getting sent to these for-profit prisons as opposed to just getting, sent back to the country that they came from, right? Why is it that we have to keep them here for years on end and spend tax dollars on them? That doesn't make any sense. The reason why we do is because these private prisons have lobbied to make it so.
It's classic rent seeking, where you have a corporation that says, I want to get this government contract so that I will continue to get my payments every month, like you would get for rent, so that I can continue to have these, respectable and completely established profits that will never go away, because once these contracts are signed, they're very difficult to get eliminated. But, this is the whole point of globalization, essentially. The idea that, the whole point of globalization for corporations is to not have to pay a living wage to Americans. So they moved overseas. Well, the other part about globalization and being a corporation is you have to continuously show increased profits. Well, for increased profits, something's got to give. That's going to be wages. They have this incentive to use the prison population as captive labor, which they can do for cheaper prices. I don't know what they're going to do when the captive labor becomes too expensive for them. But the incentives, the financial incentives, are too strong right now, and we have to fight against this as well to prevent this from becoming even more pervasive than it already is.
Absolutely. And I want to make one last point about this. One argument that private prisons will make is that they save states money. But there have been numerous studies indicating that that is not the case. There was one study in Ohio that showed that they're actually costing the state more money, because what they will do is they will cherry pick which prisoners they will put in their facilities. If someone is old, if someone has health issues, they will not accept those prisoners, right? They get funded by the state, so it's not like it's really a private company. And at the same time, the public prisons are stuck with the sickest prisoners, and of course taxpayers have to pay even more for that. So it doesn't save money. It leads to tough on crime legislation, which ends up locking up nonviolent offenders. So I love that Kanye brought attention to this issue. I hope that young people are paying attention, because we do have to fight back against this.